One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. This is the only show dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of investment banking. Hello, my name is Alex Mason, and I am your host. Thank you so much for joining me. I am a career switcher, a first-year MBA student at the Cornell S.C. Johnson School of Business. First day of classes is tomorrow. Really excited, just getting going here up here in Ithaca, New York. And for today, we're talking about valuation. What we're doing now with these series of episodes is just kind of doing a little bit of a recap, going through the basic technical topics. And I just kind of want to revisit these with you because if you don't have the basics down, then the advanced stuff this doesn't matter nearly as much as having the basics down. So we've talked a little bit about a summary of the basics of enterprise and equity value. We've talked about some of the basic concepts of accounting that are good to review. And today I want to talk about valuation. So the episodes of the show where we covered specific valuation topics, basic level questions, were episodes 43 through 64. 43 through 64. And so what are the main things that we want to remember here? Well, first and foremost, we have to understand the three major valuation methodologies. There are three major valuation methodologies. There's comparable companies, there's precedent transactions, and then there's discounted cash flow analysis. And each of them have their pros and cons. They have their place. And we have to understand when each would make sense for a given transaction. So it's really important to understand that. That's really the bread and butter of the section, is really digging into those three methodologies. And you also want to have just a basic knowledge of some of the other less common valuation methodologies. If you remember, we talked about things like liquidation value or M&A premiums analysis. Those kinds of things, they're definitely not as common as the three major valuation methodologies, but it's good to be aware of them and understand when they might make sense and when they wouldn't. So definitely review those. And then, of course, we can't finish talking about valuation without talking about multiples. We got to know our multiples, when they make sense, when they don't. Of course, know the common multiples well. I think that's most important. For example, you probably heard of me talking about these same multiples over and over again for many weeks now. For example, EV to EBITDA, which is enterprise value divided by earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. You've got your EV to revenue multiple, and then you've got other price multiples such as price to earnings ratio or your price to book ratio. And then it's also good, similar to knowing less common valuation methodologies, it's good to know less common valuation multiples. For example, industry-specific multiples like EV to EBIT DAX, that's for oil and gas, or price to FFO for a real estate transaction, funds from operations. And yeah, those are a little bit more niche, but just good to be aware of them, even if you don't intend to work in those industries necessarily. So yeah, know your multiples, know your major valuation methodologies, know your less common ones as well. And then also just generally be able to discuss how you would value private companies, or generally, how would you value any asset I remember one of the questions was, how would you value an apple tree? And there's a lot of different ways you could look at it. I mean, you could look at really just it comes down to cash flow and what that asset is going to produce in the future. So understand that basic concept and then be able to speak into more specifics as far as how you would apply that to different situations for different types of businesses or assets. So that's really the basics of valuation is understanding the main ways, the lenses through which professionals view valuation and being able to speak to the logic of each of those methods. And then I'm going to bring it back again, in particular to your comparable companies, your precedent transactions, and your DCF. Comparable companies, remember, we're looking at companies in the market where it's just like it sounds. We're comparing the financial profile. We're comparing the non-financial characteristics also of these companies. Things like market size, revenue size, a number of employees, especially the industry that it's in. Just all those things that we can use to calibrate our particular deal against some kind of benchmark. And then remember, precedent transactions is very similar, but we're looking at actual closed deals in the market. And remember that premiums typically get paid for actual deals versus what valuations might look like on a fair value basis. And there's reasons for that. So go ahead and review that. And then, of course, DCFs. And DCF is its own big topic. But of course, from a valuation perspective, just remember that discounted cash flow, it really just relates to the intrinsic value of the company based on its financial performance. And that's really the big differentiator between DCF and these other two major methods is the other two methods are just benchmarking against what's happening in the market, right? They're just benchmarking against deals that have happened or against how the market's valuing companies today or historically. Whereas discounted cash flow is looking at the fundamental business performance of what's going on. So that's a major differentiator there. So go ahead, review your evaluation questions. Again, that's episodes 43 through 64. Now, next time on the show, we're going to be going over a summary of discounted cash flow. So be sure to join me next time. This is Alex Mason with Investment Banking Insights. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.